Chinese immigration had a major impact on Central California in Period 6 of American history. Immigration slowly began in the 1820s, but greatly increased due to the discovery of gold in Central and Northern California during the gold rush of 1848. However, due to discrimination, the Chinese workers were banned from mining and were sent to work on the Central Pacific Railroad in 1861. Out of those who moved to the United States, most were men and less than 5% were women. As of 1860, the population was 34,933 and 63,199 by 1870. A major act during this time was the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. However, prior to this in 1879, the California Constitution denied Chinese citizens the right to vote or have state employment. Then by 1882, the Exclusion Act was passed by Congress. It was the first law ever restricting immigration to the United States. The Chinese citizens were no longer able to mine, and they were confined to cities such as San Francisco. The Chinese population was majorly affected by this act because it also prohibited them from coming back to the United States if they ever left the country. In 1880, the population was 105,465. By 1900, 89,863, and by 1920, it decreased all the way to 61,639. Once confined to other cities due to discrimination and repressive laws, they created towns such as Chinatown and San Francisco to protect their culture. After the railroad was completed, they fell into a depression due to their work no longer being available. This led to them becoming farmers, open restaurants, provide domestic services in white homes, and develop laundry businesses. Once their business became successful, they were seen as unwelcome competition to the struggling San Francisco economy.
Urbanization in California. One of the biggest questions surrounding this new wave of migration to California was why? Why were so many people going to California? Well, one of the main reasons was the gold rush of 1848, which started in Sutter's Mill, which can be seen in the picture in the top right corner. This inspired many miners to come seek out revenue and a new way to support themselves by mining for gold. And of course, people that lived in California or that moved to California took advantage of this and built many stores in order to sell supplies to these miners. These new miners saw that California was a new frontier that was full of new opportunities. These opportunities being all the land that was available. And all this land could bring in revenue and help them make a living. And this, of course, was possible due to the new technologies that were brought about during this time, especially the Bessemer process, which made making steel for farm supplies a lot more efficient and helped boost farming by a significant amount. Another question about the migration to California is, where would these people settle when they were here? And of course, they did go to farms, but thanks to the Industrial Revolution that was occurring at the time, there was a big transition from farms to cities, and these cities kind of boomed during this time period. Another reason why would be all the immigrants, like the African Americans, escaping the segregation in the South after the Civil War. Typically, these people would settle in areas where there was a good place for resources, and this, of course, included San Francisco, since it has a big port where trading could take place, and Los Angeles, which was inhabited by many of the indigenous Mexican people.
The Southern Pacific Railroad was founded in 1865 by a group of businessmen led by Timothy Phelps. Although the railroad got off to a good start, a team of magnates, so-called the Big Four, were eyeing the growing company. In 1868, they purchased the Southern Pacific. Following the purchase, the Southern Pacific merged the Central Pacific Railroad into its system in 1870. The merger included several smaller locomotive companies owned by Central Pacific, which created an excellent base for the Southern Pacific. Those companies spanned the United States, allowing the newly merged companies to more easily access resources when needed. This increased the diet in the the United States because new foods that could only grow in certain areas could be imported and taken to new locations, which added a variety of new meals and foods that could be enjoyed. The new locomotive began in Sacramento, California, and it reaches all the way down to the border of the United States. Between 1874 and 1881, the Southern Pacific used its resources from all over the United States to build new tracks that would span the country. The feat was accomplished on January 12, 1883, when the second transcontinental railroad line was completed. The Southern Pacific Railroad decided to take control of the partner, the Central Pacific Railroad, and made a bigger railroad company that would expand all over the United States. With the combination of these two railroads, new refrigerated cars were available, in which it allowed to transport special foods across the country and new items that were only able to be transferred with refrigeration, like milk and dairy products. Since railroads allowed for easier access to travel all across America, then this allowed for the urbanization from rural to urban areas. So from that, new people were coming to the cities to work. This improved the city life and increased the wages of many because there's more factory jobs, and this affected our location of Turlock, California, and around the area because farmers started to make more products that people wanted to buy, and since people had money, they could now purchase those items because they worked in factories. Towns began to develop more and more, and as seen through the pictures, more diversity began to be shown in the cities from immigrants that were attracted to the companies and factories jobs that were available because of new urbanization. The train and the train tracks increased the availability of resources and provided new opportunities and new ways to achieve those opportunities for immigrants and other workers. As seen in the pictures of the trains, you can see that the new train was something very big that was made and very, very noticeable. People began to travel all across America and began to settle in new places where they couldn't before, since they couldn't ride the train. And that comes into play where how more people settled into Turlock, California, where we live, and this increased the city. So the downtown Turlock, for us now, used to be the whole town of Turlock, and since more and more people were able to come into Turlock, now the city has expanded. So all in all, the train allowed for a better diet, more economic opportunities, and more diversity in the towns, along with new resources to reach new areas.